Hello and welcome to this actually special announcement for my company, which is called Aurate. And my name's Jacqueline Norton. I'm the CEO and founder of Aurate. And I'm very delighted to welcome my friend and colleague, Conrad Simpson.
Hey, Jacqueline, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world.
How are you?
I am fantastic, Jacqueline. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. So the reason we're having this chat is, I normally do expert spotlights with various people and generally, in the music industry. Well, this is an expert spotlight on ourselves.
Wow, thank you. And I'm very flattered to be called an expert. Thank you.
Well, we're all experts in something.
We are. We are.
So I think, what we wanted to do was kind of give a bit of background into Aurate and what we've been planning for quite a while now, and just explain a little bit more about that, because we've made an announcement this morning that our doors are open. We've arrived.
Yeah.
And now I think the real fun bit for me, because you and I have got a background in sales, we'll talk about that in a minute, and the fun bit is selling it and sharing with people what it is that we're doing and why. So before we kind of go into that, do you want to give us a bit of an intro on you, Conrad?
Yes, so I'll give you a 1 minute spotlight on me and my background. So I'm a seller by profession. I've been in the B2B sales world for, I guess, coming up 25, 30 years now. And I worked with Jacqueline some time ago, but we worked together for about 5 years back at the start of our careers. And since then, I've stayed on the track of selling, and in fact, more recently been involved in sales transformation. So actually helping and coaching sales leaders and CROs in terms of getting the best from their teams. And I recently reconnected with Jacqueline, probably 2.5, nearly 3 years ago now. We started to talk about where there might be gaps in people's strategies. And one of the things that I think jumped out for both of us was the fact that there's lots more technology around to help the seller nowadays, and that's all very good. Having a framework and methodology and those things are very, very helpful. But we have, I think, neglected the human bit. Today, to get a sales job, you have to do 5 or more interviews. We spend a lot of time finding the right people, but then once they're part of our team, we don't necessarily tend to focus too much on developing their competencies and skills. And that was the thing that really excited me about our conversations, Jack. And of course, here we are, sometime down the road with what we think is going to help those guys massively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like you say, we met when we were on the same sales team many years ago, and our careers have gone slightly in different directions. So I went on to sell for other companies and eventually became a sales director of a small software company. And then I joined Deloitte 7 and a bit years ago, and left them in March to focus on this. So when we started talking, I think we both recognized there was something there in terms of, a gap in the market, certainly in the technology stack, which, I think if we termed it human technology, that wouldn't be far off the truth.
Is that we've focused on quite a lot on consumptive training. You consume the training and then you go back to the day job when the training course is over. And I think very much that there's an opportunity, and certainly I think initially a need, because we see this from people that we've talked to change that consumptive model into a much longer term competency model.
I've always thought of selling as being something that should be one of the most noble things you can do in business. You're solving problems for people, and yet selling has got a bad reputation. The people who we are and know are decent, honest people who want to solve people's problems. And there is a real, kind of misalignment there. But, there's that old adage, isn't there, that people buy from people. And I would add to that people buy from people that can help them. It helps if you like them, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Yes,
but it's lovely if it
true,
works that way.
Yeah.
But to solve someone's problem, get them out of discomfort, pain, to really be there and help them is a wonderful thing to be able to do.
And of course, customers recognize when you're being authentic and noble, and they recognize it when you're not being authentic and noble. And we've all seen examples of that in our sales careers. And I think, that's why I think it's important to find out from you in more detail, what Aurate's focusing on. And I've seen you sharing content, and we've shared content around three things: results, reputation, and relationship. And hopefully we'll get to talk about how they fit into what Aurate does, what Aurate does in terms of helping customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's about understanding, certainly from a sales leader's point of view, what their drivers are, what the challenges they face, and how they can support their teams in being a better coach, as well as a boss, as a manager, as a sales leader, and those two things are quite tricky to navigate. And I think two of the major challenges are that sales leaders they struggle having the time to do that.
Yeah.
And they also are not coaches.
Right.
And there is a dynamic that goes on with people when you are in a coaching relationship. The coachee has to give permission to be coached. It's a very vulnerable place to be. And if that person who's coaching you is also your boss, that can be quite difficult, for both parties. So I think the way to structure that competency journey is in understanding those dynamics, understanding and setting up the right boundaries around it, but also providing content that is experiential, that, like you said, it's not just about, I did that course, I've got that knowledge. But for me, knowledge is operating on at least two levels. There's head knowledge, where we just understand the concept of something, but then there's the deeper embodied knowledge of how we behave.
That's about making sure that you've got what you need in place to change the behaviors, because you can't afford, as you say, as a sales leader, to coach every deal and coach everybody all day, because you've got to do other things, but if you're able to help people change their habits, and that's difficult to do, in my life in the sales transformation business, we were often sharing a statistic that something like 90% of what you learn in a consumptive training model or training course is lost after just 60 days. So it's you spend a lot of money buying a consumptive training course, and everybody goes back to doing what they did before.
There is one thing I think that's made it in the too difficult camp to be able to address this, and that is another old adage: if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so one of the things that we focused on a lot in what we've built into our solution is the ability to have data analytics around behavior change.
Wow.
And when you are able to measure it, you actually get not just a return on investment, which of course every spend needs, but you get return on impact. Yeah. And that is the difference. That's the game changer. And if you think about, you talked about the three themes that we've got in terms of the key outcomes, results, reputation, and relationships. They are three of our critical outcomes. And we've built a whole framework around that in terms of how we deliver it. At some point, there will be a moment where we talk about that silence, when the penny drops, or they make a decision that they're not going to go any further. But everybody wants to be nice, right? They don't necessarily want to tell you that. So the ability to understand what's not being said, what's being felt. Yeah. If all you're doing is thinking about your script or your sales patter, or the things that you're going to say next, you miss out on those cues.
Yes, and of course, sometimes it's not the right time for a sales pitch. Yeah. Sometimes you should wait and pick your moment. And why do you think now was the right time, Jack? I mean, is it just purely a coincidence? Has COVID made a huge difference, do you think, or is it just that perhaps people are wanting, including customers, are wanting a different approach to B2B selling? Do you have a view of what were the critical catalysts, if you like?
Yeah, so I do, in that I think we've always needed this because we've always been human,
right?
And COVID has accelerated it for sure. But that point you made about just clicking is really the heart of what Aurate is doing, because it's about human chemistry. And the analogies that I've drawn in terms of the content is about the forerunner to chemistry, really. It's getting really down to basics of who we are and how we're wired, which is alchemy. And I use the word alchemy because it's kind of a mixture of science and art, of analysis and magic. And we just clicked, right? We just got along. Well, what is that?
People say all the time.
How do we decode it? How do we replicate it?
Right. Yeah.
How do we create chemistry?
What does it take to click?
Yeah. So that's the actual first program that we're bringing to market is Communication Alchemy, and asking people to go into inner work themselves, but in a really organized and structured way, and doing that at scale. And that's what's really not been done before.
That's when customers will make a decision on whether or not they can trust you, whether or not they want to invest in a relationship with you, whether or not when they talk to other people, because of course they are more informed now than ever, you have a reputation that's envious. They've talked to other people who say, yeah, those guys are fantastic. You really need to work with them. That's difficult to ignore, Because
a lot of selling is happening remotely over Zoom or Teams or whatever tools you use. The ability to reach through the technology and connect more deeply and sooner is even more critical. So there's a lot of dynamics as to why now's the right time.
Yeah.
And I think there is a very serious aspect of mental health as well. We've all been through a very stressful couple of years, and it was pretty bad before that, in terms of stress.
But as you know, as a seasoned seller, just as I am, the numbers also have been important. But going back before COVID, we knew, because we've seen data and studies that suggest that half of sales people in the B2B world are not hitting their number.
I think this is, really just positioning, the why behind our business and, the problems we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And, we really would like to have a conversation with you. If you're listening to this and you're liking what you hear, we want to solve that problem for you.
Sure we do. We want to take all that good stuff you've done with technology, all those methodologies, those frameworks, those processes that you've built into your sales activities, and we want to now enhance your pilots. We want to give them a simulator so that they can become expert pilots. And so when they leave the airfield, you don't have to worry about them, being successful. They're going to come back with all of the success that you wanted and more. So as Jack says, really love to have a conversation with you about it. Book a call. Let's talk about the future, because it's a bright future, Jack. It's a fantastic future with what we're going to be able to do together. Definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. So if you want to know more and you're not ready to book a call, you can go onto our website. The links will be posted alongside this, and just find out a little bit more about us, and what we do. And, when you're ready, we'll be here.
Yes, we look forward to it.